back to this class in financial account. And then, you know, I'm not even going to teach you financial account, you know that. But this is a continuation of the class we had before now. And then we have that class, and then some person says, where's the complete class? Well, this is the complete one we want to do for you. I'm going to invite again, I call him Professor Dr. Sari Sampson, the account analyst. Thank you, sir. You're welcome, sir.
All right, sir. All right, now we continue from where we stopped from the previous class, which is the application of double entry. Like I've said before, we said that the law or the principle of this double entry states that for every debit entry there must be a corresponding credit entry. Then for every credit entry there must be a corresponding debit entry. Now, how can we apply that? Now, applying that, which I'm going to use this illustration. And take note that we said that we debit the receiver, then we credit the giver. And looking at this illustration, that is a transaction that takes place where we said sales of goods 150,000 naira to NIPCO on credit. Now, sales of goods 150,000 naira to NIPCO on credit. Now, we are selling a goods that's worth 150,000 naira to NIPCO Limited. NIPCO Limited on credit. Now, if you look at this now, the first thing that should come to mind is that in this kind of illustration or transaction, this is a credit transaction because a cash is not made. No payment is made in that case. Now the next now is how can we apply this transaction, this illustration? Now, you should know that there are two accounts that need to be prepared or that need to be recorded. And what are the two accounts there? We have the sales and we have the NIPCO. Now, these are the two accounts that need to be prepared. Now, sales of goods 150,000 to NIPCO. If you look at this, the first thing you need to do or to know is you need to know your debit, you need to know your credit. And what do we mean by debit? The receiver, who is receiving and who is giving. Now, in this illustration, you can see that when there are sales of goods of 150,000 to NIPCO, NIPCO is the one receiving the goods. So we debit what? NIPCO. We debit NIPCO because it's the one receiving the goods. Then we credit what? Sales. So we credit sales because the goods is going out. Now, this is just a simple illustration on how we can apply the double entry principle, which is the background of the originated or the major concept while treating financial accounting. Now, let's take more examples where we have purchase of goods 100,000 from Pepsi Limited on credit. Now look at that. It said purchase of goods 100,000 naira from Pepsi Limited on credit. Now in this case now, purchase of goods 100,000 from Pepsi Limited on credit. Now if you look at this now, we need to know who am I to debit, who am I to credit. Now who am I to debit, who am I to credit? Now let's look at this. Now it said purchase of goods 100,000 naira from Pepsi. But take note that this is a credit transaction. Now, purchase of goods 100,000 naira from Pepsi, that means that you need to prepare the two accounts. The two accounts that need to be prepared is the purchase and that of the Pepsi Limited company. Now, the purchase, is it going to be debit or credit? Let's look at this. Now, the purchase will be what? Debit. Why? Because it's like you are receiving. When you buy something, you receive. Now, it said from that means it's getting it from someone. It's getting that is you buy a particular product from Pepsi. So Pepsi should be credited. Now, purchase with what? Debit. Then Pepsi with what? Credit. Now that is the application of that of the a cash. Now, in this case, the two accounts that need to be prepared is that of the sales and the cash. The sales and the cash. Sales of goods 100,000 naira in cash. Now, who am I to debit, who am I to credit? In this illustration, in this transaction now the sales will be what? Will be credited, then while the cash will be debited. Why? Because as you're making a sale, you are receiving the cash. So the cash is coming in while the goods are selling is going out. So you credit the sales, then you debit the cash. Now, let's move to what? Ledger. Now, ledger is a book of accounts that is being summarized, classified in a form on a given book. What am I saying? I said that ledger is a book of account that is being classified, summarized in a form of a given book. That is in a permanent book. Now, that is the final destination of subsidiary book. If you can come back to our previous class, where I said the procedure of the process of how account is prepared, which I mentioned the previous class, where we talk about the sum document to that of the subsidiary book, then go to the ledger. Now, how does the ledger look like? A ledger looks like this. This is how a ledger looks like. Now, the ledger, the format of the ledger. Now, this is the format of the ledger. The ledger is this form where we have the debit and the credit. Now, this is the debit, this is the credit. Now, then you write the name of the account. Let's assume the name of the account is Nico. Now, we have the date, then the details, and then we have the amount. That's the debit side by your left. Then the same thing should be done on the right hand side. We have the date, we have the particular, then we have the amount. Now, I will give an illustration on date. Now, sales of goods 100,000 naira in cash. Now, I'm going to use ledger to prepare this account. Now, using the ledger to prepare that, look at where I'm going to do that. Now, we have sales. And here we have the cash. Now, here we have the debit and here we have the credit. Now, this side is my debit, while this is my credit. You can see that I'm preparing two accounts. You will see that I'm preparing two accounts because it's a separate account. You need to prepare a separate account, separate ledger for that. Why? Because there are two, the sales and the cash. Now, the sales will be at the credit side because it's going out. Then we have let's give the date that the day the transaction takes place. Let's assume January 1, 2024. That's the January 1. That's the date. Then what is the details there? What will be the details? Sorry, we should be at the credit side. Now, what will be the details? Now, this is the date. Then the next thing is the detail. That is the particular. Then what am I going to put there? I'm going to put what? A cash. Because the sales account is at the credit side. Then the next thing is the amount. How much is it? We have 100,000 naira. Now, the corresponding of this will now be at the debit side of the cash account because we said it's the corresponding entry. Now, that is the opposite of this is this. Now, we now move into the debit side. Then we write what? The date, that same date, 1/1/24. Then we now write what? Sales. Then the value will now be 100,000 naira. Now, this is now known as a ledger account. Now, this is now sales ledger account. Why this one is this one is the cash ledger account. So this is how ledger is being prepared. And then we have the division of ledger. We have division of ledger where we have the private ledger, which involves the capital and that of the drawings account. There we also have the nominal, the real ledger, and we also have the personal ledger. So all these are types of ledger. We also have debtors ledgers, we have creditors ledgers. So
video. So this is all we've done for you. I believe you have questions. So drop it there. We're going to attend to it. And then any question, any topic you want me to treat for you. Of course, I'm trying to understand what is happening here. But anyway, there's a nice one. Good one. See you in the next class. See you soon.